What's going on, Dragons? Happy Friday. As always, I'm your co-host, Cory. Welcome to episode 33 of the UrCast, your weekly Friday Night Magic pre-show. Cole is feeling a little under the weather this week, so with me, in studio, a studio of Discord, back by popular demand, we have Brian joining me, aka the Unskilled Commander. Brian, how has this week in Magic been treating you?
It has been treating me as every week treats me, which is fine because I'm still alive. And I question the back by popular demand. What
It was
popular
just
demand is it? One request, yours? Is that
demands. I will admit demands were made, the popularity of which is debatable.
right? I don't know that I got the popular vote. I think I was just there.
There was mention of you coming back, and then a lot of demands flooded my DMs.
Okay, I'll say,
Some
don't
of
you
them
dare!
looked, yeah, don't you dare, watch it, you know,
I'll stop listening if he's on again.
yeah, curse you. But first off, hey, thanks for hopping in. I know this was supposed to be a little bit different of an episode where you were going to be a bit of a guest. But like I said, Cole's feeling under the weather, so you hopped right into the co-pilot seat. We can
Awesome.
debate who's the Han and who's the Chewbacca, but
I,
thank you
I
for
would
being here.
love to just. I so wanted to make the Chewbacca noise. I don't know how. Like, that's that was something
Is it?
drowning. That
That's
wasn't Chewbacca.
I don't think that's Chewbacca. I think that's Chewbacca like smothering an Ewok is what that is.
Yeah, that was bad. I just, yeah.
So this week, you guys, we are going to be pivoting into the shadow realm of Magic and discussing some banned cards. So in Magic, there's obviously a bunch of banned lists depending on what format you play, but obviously we talk about Commander on here, so we're going to be talking about the Commander ban list as well as, well, not as well as, but specifically the 9 commanders that are banned. So we're going to go over all 9 commanders, kind of discuss what our thoughts are, why they're banned. Should they be unbanned? Maybe, perhaps,
Could be. So
could be, possibly. Kind of take it from there. I wrote all my notes and I led up pitching this episode for you to come on as it being unbanning the Hateful Eight, and then somehow I missed that there was 9 commanders that were banned. So I've had to therefore update my show notes to say that we're now talking about unbanning the Naughty Nine.
okay.
So I don't know if that makes it to the title of the episode, but that's the working title. If it's not the title of the episode, now you know the working title.
The Nefarious Nine. Well,
You know, I think, listen, if Cole doesn't get better, I think you got to come on permanently now. I think this is just, it's a shoe-in. And I say that not because he's going to listen to this episode or that he's present in any kind of way
no,
recording the audio in the background.
not at all.
Not at all. He may or may not be. We can neither confirm nor deny. Maybe he was that Ewok that was being drowned in a case of Jello or whatever that was.
That was me getting job security. I was just like, I want this position.
He's
Go to
like,
sleep.
I've now become the skilled commander.
Yes.
So the commander ban list, total 86 cards. I, for one, did not realize it was that hefty or meaty,
Yeah, it's a lot.
because if somebody asked me what was banned in Commander, I could maybe name 10. Like, gun to my head, I've got 60 seconds. Maybe 10. Maybe 15 if I'm really up on my caffeine that day. So the way I think we tackle this is alphabetically.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Is it 86? I don't count 86.
I question the 86. I'm going to blame this on Cole. He's not here to defend himself, so I think he's going to take the heat for this. And the reason I say that is right before we click record on this, he sent a Scryfall link where it says Scryfall banned Commander, and then it says right underneath 86 magic cards found where it's banned in Commander. But when you look on the actual website, I don't see 86.
No,
So
it's more the
either,
super quick count was like around 46, I think. I may have miscounted one or two, but yeah.
oh my God, Cole has failed us again on multiple levels. Just an abject failure.
I mean, if he was here, but he's not.
If he was here listening, which he of course is not. Wait, I have the editors in my ear. Page 2 of the search, 86. Listen, buddy, take a backseat. You're not on the episode. Calm yourself. So alphabetically, we're gonna kick it off with what I think is the least controversial, I would probably argue. Like, not maybe not least controversial, but the one I would say I could understand why it's banned the most, and that is Braids Cabal Minion. So to read it off real quick, so Braids Cabal Minion is 2 black for a 2/2 human minion. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. Um, so don't confuse this with the blue braids, which is basically like let everybody dump the biggest thing in their hand each turn, or
Mm.
the new black braids, which I mean also makes you sacrifice, but it gives you like an alternative. You can choose not to sacrifice stuff. OG braid, well, second OG braids. I don't know the dating on this.
Getting way too into the magic details for me. I don't do details. I'm a big picture kind of guy. You got to back off a little if you want me to participate. Well, in 1807, when the first artwork was created for what would eventually become. No, I don't know any of
The original Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
that.
There I was on the stagecoach. I believe this is the original braids. And the reason I say that is because it has the braids, the namesake braids.
Mhm.
But the printing that I'm looking at is from like Modern Horizons 2, so maybe it's not. So what are your thoughts on this? I would say that this is maybe the most obvious of why it's banned, and the play cycle is clearly sacrifice a land, sacrifice a land, sacrifice a land, and just bomb everyone to the Stone Age.
I guess, yeah. I mean, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know
that
because
player
it's like
has
I
to.
guess like I'm bad at understanding why most of these cards are banned. Like, because I never see the actual like synergies with the other cards. Because almost no card is ever banned in and of itself. Like,
Mhm.
take a card. I guess I shouldn't say that, but like in terms of the commanders, most commanders are designed, regardless of whether it's on this list or not, just in general, they're designed to serve a purpose that allows you to do something. So either you're just doing them there for the colors, or they do something that you want to work off of. So it's like, so banning a creature specifically because one's used for like a commander or something like that is kind of weak because there's got to be other ways to do similar things. So it's like, okay, you're just taking away one avenue, like obviously the fastest one, but I don't know because like I
Yeah, I
just wouldn't
think.
choose to I wouldn't choose to get rid of lands because that's how you do stuff. Like I would get rid of artifacts first and then creatures if they weren't super important to the board state, and then I'd get rid of lands. And then I would just be smacking the hell out of the person that had braids to try and for player removal.
So, I mean, the thing is, one, the player gets to pick what they're sacrificing, right?
Mhm.
So you're not really forcing them to go like you're sacrificing all this stuff unless you're removing the item. At least that's the way I'm reading it. Like I don't believe you go, all right, you're forced to sacrifice lands.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say anything about like you choosing. It's just they that player
Yeah,
sacrifices something
sacrifice A,
objective.
B, or C.
Mhm.
Now, I would assume the argument is you board wipe
Right? Just
and
the
then
same.
go,
Yep.
all right, now I bring out braids and congratulations on all your land sacrifices, which all you have left. Or you Vandal Blast somebody if you were playing this in like a 2 color. Because the key here is these are legendary creatures we're looking at that are banned, but they don't necessarily have to be the commander. They're banned like
True.
in the 99, they're banned in all facets. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. You turn one Dark Ritual to get your or or you do fast mana to get your braids out, and then especially if you're like turn one player,
Mhm.
so that you know that hey, all anyone else is going to have is their land. Like they're going to be able to play a land because they won't have anything on the first upkeep to destroy.
Right.
But then the second time around, it's like, all right, destroy, 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 and then you just keep turning braids sideways. And as long as you've got enough land and whatnot in hand to kind of keep fueling it, so that you don't yourself have to sacrifice braids, you're
Right.
off to the
Right.
races.
Yeah, it would just be nothing but a bunch of one drops or something, and the rest
Yeah,
of it, I guess.
now I think I get it. I see the play style. I get that it would be oppressive. I could take it or leave it on the ban list. I don't know that you unban it and goes crazy, maybe in CEDH, but I feel like this could be an ezy table ban if you've
Hmm.
got that one person that has that deck and you're just like, he's playing braids again.
Hmm.
Curse them, you know?
Right.
What about
Yeah.
for
I mean,
yourself?
to be honest, I would make it miserable for them. It's like after the first time, like it's like, oh, you're gonna play it, and then it's like super fast, and then so next time they're like, I want to play my braids deck. I'd be like, okay, cool. I'd just like look them dead in the eye, and I wouldn't do any actions. I'd be like, okay, cool. I'd take the card off the top of the library, just toss it in the battlefield, not even look at it. I pass.
and
Like, oh,
just
you're
go,
gonna win that easy? Go ahead. I'm not gonna make it fun for you.
are
You're
we
not gonna
gonna
get the
are we
enjoyment out of
spend
things.
yeah, are we gonna spend an hour of you just pinging all 3 players for 21 commander damage, 1/2/2 hit at a time?
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be like they're gonna stop using it or stop running it that fast.
Yeah,
I'm
for
not
sure.
talking if it comes out like, I mean, turn 4, granted, you're right. Turn 4 is still pretty early or something like that. You're not gonna have a lot to do and a lot to sacrifice, so I get it.
No, I would say that this is a bigger hurdle because of the mana cost, but I would lump this kinda in the same boat as if someone could hypothetically, which you could, but hypothetically get out like a 1 or 2 or 3 turn, like turn 3 tox roll,
Mhm,
where knowing, "Hey, if I were to, like, power that out somehow super early in the game, that it would just become miserable for everybody else because no one else would be able to establish a board presence."
mhm. And I did that
But
once, and it still didn't work. Like, it was because talk show never lasted. It would always turn 7, turn 6 maybe, and then it
is
would get
that
destroyed, and I wouldn't have enough mana to recast it and all. And one time I got super lucky and literally was able to cast it on turn 3. And as I went to the beginning of my end step, one of my friends like blew it up with a removal spell, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
And that was the
I tore,
day
tore it
that was the
apart.
day that you became the unskilled commander. You're like, "Nope, you know what? The skill has eluded me."
Yes, I don't. There's nothing I can do.
So where would you vote on this? Unban or ban? Or I
I
guess
say
keep
banned.
banned.
Keep it banned. Yeah, that keep it banned. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
If it didn't have the or land, that's the only thing that would. That's
Yeah,
what
but
makes it bad.
if it didn't have the or land, right? I could see this being kind of like Shattergang Brothers esque, where I sacrifice an enchantment, so you sacrifice an enchantment, or I sacrifice a creature, or an artifact.
Yeah, but I mean, but you still get to pick. So it'd be like artifact or creature. If you don't have it, if you don't have one or the other, you do it. But it's like people can then still have the option of playing the lands and ramping above it to get rid of her or to deal with it.
Sure,
Whereas,
that's
like
why.
as you're saying, the land part just completely locks everyone down if you get her out early enough, and I can see why that would just take the fun out of the game.
Yeah, now the new one, Braids or Risen Nightmare, does have the land option still tacked on, but what it makes optional is the sacrifice. So either you also sacrifice, a land, a creature, an artifact, or you take some damage and allow me to draw a card. So
Hmm.
you get sort of like a pivot to it, sort of like
Right.
a villainous choice.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely more fair.
Okay. Well, if a little 2/2 wasn't doing it for you,
Mhm.
next up, we're going to talk about Imracul, Aeon's Torn, a beefy boy or girl or thing.
Mhm.
A 15 mana for a 15/15 Eldrazi. This spell cannot be countered, so it's got Ward Infinity, I guess.
Basically.
When you cast this spell, take an extra turn after this one. Flying, protection from spells that are one or more colors, Annihilator 6. When Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into their library. So there's a lot to break down here,
Yes.
right? So I think the first thing is the 15 mana is kind of deceiving because I don't know anybody that hard casts
Mm,
Eldrazi's at their full 15 or 13 or 10, 11 mana value.
never.
Yeah, never. There's always some way to either cheat it out or to have like those Eldrazi spawns that sacrifice to make more mana.
Or
Stuff where
if you're gonna do that,
you're
you're gonna
getting
toss
out.
in a you're gonna turn in what is it, Urza's Incubator using Eldrazi. You're gonna
Mhm.
lower the casting cost of your first spell that turn or Eldrazi as much as possible.
Yeah, it's same as dragon decks, right? Like there's one that's hard casting dragons at that rate.
Mm,
They're running the Urza's incubators. They're running the all the little mana dorks that reduce dragons, like the dragon speaker shamans and all that kind
mm,
of stuff. Next, you gotta look at the fact it can't be countered. So it comes in and you're kind of like, well, it's gonna enter.
mhm. That's
Which
the big
I
one, I
kind of
think.
get. I kind of get because if you jump through the hoops to make this happen, it's sort of like the ward aspect. Like they want to put ward on things that you want to have that creature stick on the battlefield at least once, so you get to do the one cool thing.
Right, right.
But what
Yeah,
happens when
and
the one cool thing is too cool?
yeah, and that's the problem. But like, and that's true. Like, it's a 15 minutes, so there's like, if you are hard casting that poor thing, you're not gonna want to counter because that's just bull. I
Yeah,
used
that's true.
every ounce of my 15 mana to cast this. No countered. and then it's like, okay, cool, I don't have enough to try again, so thanks.
Well, and here's the other thing. So when it gets cast, you take an extra turn. So what that's really doing is it's funneling into the next part of the ability.
Mhm.
So the fact that you can cast it as like turn one, not first turn, but the turn one of the two you're about to take. I mean, it's nice. So you know it's not going to be countered. Then you can do whatever you want with however little mana you probably have remaining at that point.
Mhm.
But then at least it guarantees you to have that second turn where then you're like Annihilator sixing somebody.
Yeah. The thing is, I think at a glance, really removing basically one line out of the four paragraphs, like one,
Mhm.
if you count each separate thing as it's, just a line. Any one of them would probably make it fine. Like the
Sure.
removing the counter can't be countered is probably the weakest thing to remove, but it still
Mhm.
helps. But just any one line less would make this a much better card in terms of being fair and fun. It's like, okay, it can't be countered, but you don't take an extra turn. Or it can be countered, you can't take you can take an extra turn, but it doesn't go from you don't get to reshuffle it into your library again and do it again.
Yeah,
It's like,
I think the can't be countered aspect, if they were to remove that line, there would be a lot of feel bads from someone who tries to play this, assuming it were legal, which it's not, so who
yeah.
cares, right?
Mm,
There would be a lot of feel bads, but then I think it also, as someone who's like a political player, I think it also opens up a dynamic of playing cat and mouse with someone's counterspell.
mhm.
Because what if I'm showing you this sitting in the command zone and you're like, hmm, I've got one counter spell and I'm definitely going to counter that. And then I go, well, I'm going to play Kozilek this turn.
Yeah, right.
You're like,
Yeah,
hmm, do I counter this Kozilek, burn my thing, and then next turn they drop an Emrakul on me? Or what's the.
right. Or I mean, you could also play it to your advantage. Be like, "Hey, I got a counterspell. Where's that happen? Where's that heading on your second turn?" And it's like, "Well,
Hmm,
it's not heading at you. Then it resolves." I mean, it'll come at you the next time, but at least that buys you time for your win con or whatever, or a board wipe or whatever.
Well, and here's the other thing. So we are in Commander, so there's also an alternate version of damage, right? In
Mhm.
Commander damage. Well, this thing has 15 power and it's flying, and you're
Right.
guaranteed to get that attack that attack on your second turn. So
Hmm.
you could go to your next turn and go, well, I'm turning you sideways. Annihilator 6 trigger, go ahead and sacrifice 6 things, and
Hmm.
then I'm still going to body you for 15 in the air. Hopefully, one of those 6 things you didn't sacrifice was your 1/1 flying bird or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It's a lot. The fact that they put this much on one creature, this powerful, is kind of like, what were you thinking?
Mhm.
Like, they just went
Well, and
over the
what's
that's the problem. Like, there's too much good stuff on one card.
Yeah, and this is one. I mean, I'm going to say it right now. There's too much good stuff. This is one I think would be really cool to play one time.
Mm,
Like to pilot it,
yeah,
You
yeah.
ever see those decks like Turgrid and stuff where you go, I know everyone at the table is going to really hate me playing this deck, but I want to play it one time just to be that person and then I'll disassemble it for sure.
Right, yeah.
But the idea of playing this one time, especially with Modern Horizons 3 coming out, and I know there's that new, like, Eldrazi colorless Panharmonicon
Mhm.
situation
Yeah.
that says whenever your colorless, like, spells or abilities trigger, it triggers twice. So you would essentially have Annihilator 12.
Yeah.
Not to mention the when you cast a spell, you take an extra turn.
Mhm.
So you would have multiple turns, multiple Annihilator triggers.
Yeah, and since you used all of your 15 mana theoretically to get it out, the next 1 or 2 turns that you get all that mana, so that, hey, pump spell, now it's
Mhm.
21 damage on and you can take out 2 players on each of the next 2 turns. You're down to 1. It's like, yeah, it's a very gross card. I understand why they banned it.
Yeah, and then, well, and here's the other thing. We're not even talking about the protection aspect, right? We talked about the
Mhm.
counter aspect, but tucked in there, right between flying and Annihilator 6, there is protection from spells that are one or more colors. Meaning,
I.e. Magic: The Gathering.
yeah, like unless you're running all will be dust in your non-colorless deck for some reason,
Right,
just so
yeah.
you have anti-Emrakul tech for that one guy in your pod.
Mhm.
I mean, it basically hits the board and you're like, "Well, here I am."
I mean, at the same time, though, board wipes work because they don't target. It just has protection from the spells that are targeting it, right?
Okay, but
No, I know.
in
I'm
the
just saying. I mean,
No,
Board
no,
wipes are
but
definitely a thing, so I'm not trying to
let's
justify
play
it,
it.
but I'm
But
saying,
let's play it out, right? Board wipes are definitely a thing, but unless that board wipe is farewell, which is exiling,
mhm,
what happens? It gets shuffled right into my library, sucker.
mhm.
And you
But
best believe if I'm running this and I can shuffle in my library, I'm gonna have some I don't know how, but I'm gonna have some way to search it. I'm gonna Sensei Divining's top that sucker to the top. I'm gonna figure
yeah,
something out.
that's what I was about to say. It's like if that's the thing, then your deck has to be built around getting it out of the deck and speed casting it. So it's cast it early, you expect it to get blown up and put into your library, and then you just easily cheat it back out from there without worrying about the 15 mana. If you don't build it that way, it now costs 17 mana, and you have to hard cast it for real.
Yeah, again, I don't know any, not even Emrakul. I don't know any Eldrazi that I want to hardcast.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the Zuladoc from Commander Masters. I don't care if it's Emrakul, Kozilek, any of them.
Mm,
Ulamog, even the Ulamog that has Madness, where I discard it, and the new one coming out where you discard it.
mhm.
I don't even want to hardcast that. So
Keep it sustainable.
I'm gonna say leave it banned. This has got to be the
Yeah.
most leave it banned. I
I
want
say
to play
double
it.
ban it. I say double ban.
Just like double masters, we're gonna double ban it.
Yeah, it's banned, and then it has to be unbanned twice to get back into to get pulled back out.
This is like, but again, I would love to play it once. I think it should be banned. Still want to play it once.
Mm,
Next up, we're gonna be venturing into blue. Did you know that there's a banned mono blue commander?
I do now.
You know, it's a sassy one.
Mhm. Cool
It's
art.
it is. It's a Areo Soratami Ascendant. So I think this is one that I have never seen played, like even theoretically played anywhere. So it's been banned way before my existence in Magic.
Hmm.
Um, but it is, I don't know what you would call this. It's not like a flip commander. I mean, it does flip, but it's not flip in the sense that we think of now.
Right.
It's like an
Spin
inverted.
commander. It's a spin
Yeah.
command. You spin it around.
Yes. So Areo is one in a blue for a 1/1 flying Moonfolk Monk. Whenever the fourth spell of a turn is played, flip Areo Satori Ascended. Well, great. Beautiful card. I think we unban it. Oh, but wait. It flips. And it flips into Ario's Essence, which is a legendary enchantment that simply says counter the first spell played by each opponent each turn,
Yep. So now it's no longer a creature, so you
which
can't.
is
You know,
famously difficult to interact with as an enchantment.
which is completely bull. I hate that. I hate how everyone's like, oh, I don't know what play groups everyone else plays in. Every play group I'm part of, artifact and enchantment removal is like freaking pours like water. Okay, I can't play
Um,
anything without it getting targeted somehow.
no, that's only for you. I
Yeah,
actually, anytime we play, I just pack my deck with any kind of. If it says destroy an enchantment anywhere in the text, I'm like, all right, it's 9 mana, but it'll get Brian.
you're the one.
No, I think this is kind of obvious why this one is banned. So for 2 mana and the fact that you could just play 4 cantrips, which
Mhm.
in a deck designed for this is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And you have the potential to instantly counter 3 spells a turn if all 3 opponents decided to cast something. And it's every single turn. So, hey, guess what? On my turn, you interact with my board? It's countered. On your turn, would you like to play anything to advance your board state? It's countered. It's just deciding what do you want to burn out of your hand so that the second spell is something that actually sticks on the board.
Mhm. I gotta wonder if maybe I have played against this, or there must be something else like it because I know I've played one game that for a few turns we had to think of that like you had to play like multiple spells in order to get them through because like the first thing
So
was going to get countered. It may have been an
So the
emblem.
modern
Good.
so the modern equivalent of this is Jin Gataxius. Not the saga, not the original one, but the one in the middle, like Progress Tyrant, I think it is.
Okay.
And it says your first artifact, instant, or sorcery that you would cast as its controller, you
Mhm.
duplicate, like you copy it, and
Okay.
then the first of those 3 artifact, instant, or sorcery that an opponent would cast each turn gets countered.
Okay. Could be.
Now the difference is that's like 7 mana or 6 mana. It's
Mhm.
an expensive big boy.
Yeah.
This is
This
two
is a
mana.
2 mana. I mean, 2 mana for a commander is automatically really good. First off,
Mhm.
just because you're getting your commander out faster, you're getting it out on turn 2 at burst. Whereas most command legendary creatures that people play as commanders tend to be like 4 mana, 5 mana, because they want the really cool effects. And like I've found that if you can get your commander out faster than everybody else, if your deck is built around the commander, you got a distinct advantage. So a 2-drop like this is already good to go, and then blocking everyone out of the game within like a turn or two after that is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think this falls into the same categories like the braids argument of you get it out turn two, and then maybe turn two I can't do anything, but by turn two, turn three, you best believe I've got this deck set up to, like I said, dump cantrips, churn out. I mean, even if you were to hypothetically cast a cantrip, Force of Will, or some kind of free counter spell on your own cantrip, cast another 2 cantrips or something like that. For 3 mana, you're like, all right, well, there's 4 spells.
I mean, you
I,
don't even have to worry about them being useful. Like you literally can just point everything that is 1 or 0 mana, and then a couple spells for the actual win. You know, a
Mhm.
creature, a combo, whatever. But everything else is just 1 mana or less, and maybe some 4 or 5 mana draw spells to get you some gas. Yeah, you're definitely doing this on turn 3. Like you're casting her on turn 2, and you're activating it and flipping it on turn 3.
Sure, and like I said, and then the rest of your deck is just maybe a couple other stacks pieces.
Mhm.
Like maybe I don't want you to somehow like sandbag a piece of removal and then burn a spell and throw the removal at me. Oh, look, I also have regular counter spells in here. And then yeah, you've got a couple like X spell win cons or something like that. Now that you don't have to worry about interaction
Hey, throw a
and you
back to
just
basics in there, and then they can't tap some of their lands too. You know,
ugh,
really,
ugh,
really make the
ugh.
song go good.
I think we're building the deck. I think we're
Yeah.
already
Wait a
halfway there.
second. Is this what we were supposed to be doing? It sounds like we're.
We're not talking about should we unban or ban these. We're talking about like,
How do we
hey,
build
let's start building. Let's
them?
welcome to Brew It or Screw It with
Yeah.
Cody,
Where is
who does listen to this, by the way. I think I don't know, unconfirmed,
he?
unsubstantiated that he listens to this.
Although here's a subset, something we won't go into it, but it'd be pretty fun to make a band league. I'm sure it's got to be a thing, right? Like just all commanders from the band list. You
Hmm.
do build them how you want, and then you pit them against each other, and just everyone just like because if you're going in with that mentality, it's going to be fun. You're not going to get as salty because you know everyone's going to be screwed over by something. It's a speed race, you know.
I imagine that has to exist, right? Like I haven't encountered anything like that, but it seems like such an obvious thing to
Yeah,
exist somewhere. But yeah, I agree. Now you should put a pin on that, and when we get to the end, you should tell me which band one you're drafting in for the league.
right. Yeah, I mean, come on,
Because I would
braids
like to
against
see,
Puzzlick against right off the bat. These for that's a gross. Who's gonna win that?
because I would like to see the dynamic of like, all right, I've got this Arao's essence where it
Mhm.
counters the first spell, and you're over there with your Emrakul going, it says it can't be countered, and you're trying to counter it.
Yeah. Womp womp.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, but so I can see this kind of falling into the braids. Personally, I almost think this is worse than braids because your braids is hitting one person once per turn. This
Mhm.
is potentially hitting 3 people once per turn.
Right.
So I think it's got more repeatability, whereas
Yeah.
braids might be more damning because it's harder to play around.
Mhm.
This one you can kind of strategically play around, I would imagine.
Mhm.
But I would say keep it banned.
Yeah, keep it
I,
banned.
I'm actually curious. So we're a third of the way through. So that's 3 commanders down, 6 left. I'm almost curious if there's going to be anything that we say unban because so far they're pretty busted.
I mean, I know I'm probably gonna say unban the next one. So
So there, I mean,
unless
like a
I'm
little
missing
bit of no, no. I think you're going to say unban the next one too
one.
because there's 2 of them off the top of my head that I was like, I don't think they should be banned, but I get it. But if it were up to me, probably wouldn't be banned.
Mhm.
Um, so I think they're the most controversial ones too. So let's jump into what is probably the most controversial, if not one of the top 2 most controversial ones. That is Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. 5 colorless mana for a 3/5 legendary artifact creature scout. When Golos Tireless Pilgrim enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. And then for 2 in Wooburg, so a total of 7 mana, you can exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana costs.
I don't think this one shouldn't have been banned. I think, and I get why, because oh, it's just gonna be 5 color good stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, that's the point. But like the problem was that the reason why I got banned, I think, is because it was always 5 color good stuff with the absolute most broken things that existed, like 5 color good stuff dragons, good stuff slivers, Eldrazi. It's like, yeah, of course.
Mm.
But the fun thing was that he gave you access to 5 colors to do crazy, fun, creative stuff. Like there was a time for a little while that I was contemplating trying to make a horse deck, horse kindred, right? And it
Sure.
was going to have to be 5 colors because there's not enough horses in any, specific colors to even like make it fun or viable with like 2 or 3 colors.
Mhm.
Well, he would be a great commander for that, even though he's not a horse, and there aren't no like horse commanders. That's nothing. Like any typals that don't have clear, obvious, fun commanders, he is the stand-in because he does this. Like they can synergize as well as you want them to do because you have access to 5 colors. You can do all the crazy goofiness you want with them, and
Yeah.
then if you get up to 7 mana, dump it, you play the top three. So okay, I get an extra horse on the field and a mana rock and a land or whatever.
Sure.
So it's like it's still going to be 5 color good stuff, but it he opens it up to so much creativity potential for
Mm.
typals, kindreds, however you want to say it. But the problem was everyone that really used them was just doing it for the obvious choices,
Oh,
which are crazy good to begin with, and then he just makes them even more broken because cool, now I'm gonna stack my deck, activate his ability, and I'm gonna drop the 3 best dragons I have in my deck on top of the 3 or 4 that are already on the field. Womp womp. Yeah.
I understand the point you're making, right? And I agree with it. Like I'm not necessarily saying Golos should be banned, but just to play devil advocate here for a second.
Mhm.
Now, the logic behind it being banned, I think, was what you were saying. One, there's a lot of good stuff decks. This commander right here becomes the best Eldrazi commander there is, or becomes the best dragon commander there is,
Mhm.
because you have access to 5 colors, and for 7 mana, especially if you're in a big mana kind of deck, like an Eldrazi or a dragon or golems or giants or whatever, whatever it is,
Yeah.
the 7 mana is probably going to come out as a net positive as opposed to the 15 or 20 mana you would have spent trying to cast 3 big boy dragons.
Hmm.
And then when you couple this with things like Scroll Rack or things like Sensei's Divining Top or even like Brainstorm, to manipulate the top of your library, it does let you kind of cheat the system a little bit.
Sure.
So I can see the argument that this suddenly puts a lot of other commanders into the shadow of what they're supposed to be doing because this suddenly becomes the best commander at whatever deck you want to build.
Hmm.
And as far as the typal or kindred argument, I think that's part of where like the Morophon stand-in is because obviously that's the argument of Morophon, right? Which is you come in, you name a creature type, and it gives them discounts and stuff like that.
Okay.
So and it's 5 colors. It's the same thing. It's colorless, and then it's got 5 colors in its text box,
Hmm.
so that you can have that 5 color horse, and it's a changeling, so it's also a horse.
Gotcha.
So I see the argument. Now, I don't necessarily believe it should be banned because I look at this deck and I go, wow, there's a lot of fun potential, right?
Mhm.
And I'm treating it as someone who's not necessarily going, let me be the most abusive, oppressive player at the table.
Right.
I'm looking at it like, wow, these 5 cards might not necessarily go well together or go together in a normal deck because this one's red, this one's white, and this one's green, and I don't have a commander that needs all 3 of them, but they've got some wild interaction that I would never see otherwise. And Golos himself doesn't really go, this is the deck you're building. He just goes, build the deck you want to build, and I will pilot it better than
Yeah.
any stand-in commander.
Absolutely.
So
Because I mean,
I
it's not just creatures. It could be a 5 color artifact deck or a 5 color enchantment deck or heck, a five
Mhm.
color sorcery deck. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it, and he gives you those options. But I absolutely agree with you. And the reason of the banning is that it was just easy to abuse for the big stuff. and it
Yeah,
wasn't probably wasn't being as used for creative purposes that they designed it for.
yeah, and I mean, I think that that plays into mindsets, right? Of like, if you're gonna be a degenerate player, you're
Mhm,
gonna be a degenerate player. If you're gonna be like, I'm a quirky player who's not worried about winning, but I just want to pull off the big crazy combo.
mhm,
I mean, that's the way you're gonna build your deck. You know,
yeah.
if you're gonna Timmy, you're gonna Timmy. If you're gonna Johnny, you're gonna Johnny. But this is one I would almost argue like I wouldn't mind seeing it come off the ban list. And this is I think out of the entire list that we'll go through, I think this and one other one were the only ones that were actually unbanned at some point in my Magic playing career. Because a lot of these have
Mm,
been banned since like 2010, 2019, or like 2014, or since the ban list ever existed.
right.
These are ones I think a lot of players actually have seen in action at some point if you've been around for more than 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and, like, and when it was out, like, I remember the card. I think I have a copy, just naturally
Mhm.
from from Modern High or, whatever, 20,
Dim 20.
Magic 20, the core set. Even then, like, I don't remember going up against a billion Golos decks, you know? I mean, it was a small local game store that I normally played at, but even so, there was meta gamers and there was casual game, so I probably played against 1 or 2 Golos, but it wasn't like everyone's doing it with, like, the biggest things. It doesn't mean that's the way it is everywhere, of course. Certainly not. But
Sure, sure. I think you would look at it from I don't know, it seems weird to say, but like the tournament play or an event play standpoint.
mm,
Because it's not really tournament play unless you're in like CEDH, but from an event play standpoint, like maybe if you went to a Command Fest or a Magic Con, you're like, oh, there's Golos wall to wall up in this
mm,
place. So
right,
all I saw was Golos all weekend.
yep,
But I would say if you look at a local LGS, anything that's like in the top, I'm not gonna say 100, but let's say if it's in the top 25 commanders on EDH Rec, or it's like whatever the new exciting splashy thing is that's getting promoted at out of each set, those you're gonna see one or two of them crop up because
for sure.
naturally, it's gonna be like a moth to flame, right? Like Wizards showed off this shiny new commander, and
Hmm.
somebody's gonna want to play it. So I still think you looking at your LGS is a good gauge of popularity.
Hmm.
And I wasn't going to a lot of events at the time because you got to figure Magic 20 was also something else major happened in 2020 that prevented a lot of in-person gathering.
Gosh, what was that?
Yeah, yeah, who knows? But I don't recall seeing like Golos Palooza either.
Yeah, and that's a question that like I don't know if you know or not because I don't follow this kind of stuff too closely. But
Mhm.
like, are the ban lists skewed to tournament play, or are they like supposed to be period? So like the commander ban list and tournament commander isn't as it's getting bigger now. I'm actually seeing more
Mhm.
casual and CEDH tournaments being played for commander. But like, was that why it was banned? Because in CEDH it was a problem and it just made every deck the exact same, or was it like across the board they're seeing complaints everywhere and that's why it was banned?
So, I mean, I'm listen. I'm not on the rules committee, right? And
Right.
neither are you. So
Get them
they
on the
can
show.
put out.
Come on. We need these
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
hitting answers.
Let me call them up real quick. Hang
Right.
on. But I want to say the justifications I've seen for the most part on any of these, not necessarily Golos, but on anything that's banned on here, has never been its impact on event or tournament play. It's always been its impact on game experience, right? So, for example, when we look at a Braids or an Ario situation where it's like, hey, it's countering or it's making the game unfun from a playability standpoint because it's locking someone out of the game,
Mhm,
those are usually more justifications for it being banned. Whereas if you were to look at, let's say, standard or modern, there's more meta bans that are like, hey, this card is just too powerful that it's skewing the meta, so we're going to ban
right.
Fable the Mirror Breaker or something like that because in the current environment with the sets that have come out, it's skewing tournaments. But I don't
Right.
think. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I would not imagine that any of these have been banned because of its hefty impact on CEDH tournament play or anything like that. But Golos, I think maybe. So if we take out CEDH or tournament play or event play or something like that, I think Golos probably has the weakest argument as to why it's banned in that
Mhm.
sense. With like beauties in the eye of the beholder. It's the same as deck building, right? Deck building
Mhm.
is beauty in the eye of the beholder. So I
Yeah,
look at
totally.
this and I think you look at this and go, "Ooh, fun jank engine,"
Yeah.
and someone else looks at it and goes, Finally, I can crack my table. I will break their wills and shatter their spines.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like we look at it and be like, what kind of goofy stuff can I put together and make work? And everyone else is like, curb stomp. It's like,
Exactly. You know what we call curb stopping around here is the Cole method.
yeah, that cold guy.
Yeah, that Cole guy. Only
Always
we're here to
going.
defend himself.
Yep.
Moving on. Well, I guess Golos. A Golos, I would say I would not be upset if it came off the ban list. Like I get it, but if it fell off, I would be happy.
Yep. I say unban. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I say unban. Now I don't know that I'd run off and build one, but I would be excited to see what people in my playgroup would come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have one of the OGs of Magic as far as Magic lore, Mr. Gristle Brand himself. Mr. Gristle.
The brandies. Yep. He's there.
Yeah, yeah. So Gristlebrand is a whopping 8 mana, 4 colorless, and then 4 black pips for a 7/7 flying life-linking demon that just says pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. Simple, beautiful, love it. I don't see the problem with this. Oh, wait, but we're in a format that has 40 life.
Right. And he can literally pay for pay for himself in terms of the life that you need to draw 7 cards. So yes, it's like I
Yeah, so
swing, I hit for 7, I pay 7 life, my life total didn't change, and I got a full grip now, or over a full grip.
yeah, well, and that's the thing. So you're also it's not a pay 7 life and tap. So there's not really
Mhm.
a limiter on this other than your life total.
Yep.
So if you were to bring this out and still be at 40 life for whatever reason, whatever ungodly reason that somebody lets you get an 8 mana commander out and has not pinged you, you're already cracking this off, what, 5 times? You
Mhm.
could draw 35 cards.
And if you were really smart, especially now, you could have him then play Shieldred, pay all
Oh,
the life, draw all
oh,
the cards, gain most of it back. And then if you
you
have
know,
some sort of thing that's like every time you draw a card or any, and that's got to be it, right? I mean, it is very, very good, but one would
mm,
imagine it feeds into like the Sanguine Bond thing loop where it's like, oh,
sure, sure.
well, all I got to do is have Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond out, play him, sacrifice all my life. I gain it back, but I kill you guys instantly, and I'm drawing cards that I probably don't even need.
Yeah, it's almost weird to say like fair, but the fair mode of this is still a 7/7 life linker. It hits you for 7, like hits your opponent for 7, gains 7 life that you instantly dump into 7 cards. Like even the fair version, like the fair, slow, undirty combo-y version, is still obnoxious.
It's still a 3-hit commander damage win as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 3-hit commander damage win. It's in black, which means there's a lot of recursion, so you might not even be upset about, oh, you blew it up. Oh,
Mhm.
well, I'm not paying 10 because guess what? I've got reanimate and I've got
Yeah,
animate
yeah.
dead and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm,
Lore wise, though, I will say lore wise, this might be my favorite one. I don't know if you know this, but Liliana, when she sold her soul
mhm.
to the 7 demons for eternal youth, Gristlebrand, one of the signatories on that deal.
Nice. So he's one of the ones she had to kill, right?
He is, but I believe didn't he die at the hands of Avacyn or Thalia?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not a lore guy.
I'm not a lore person either. Cole is internally screaming, I'm sure, as he's twiddling with the audio right now. Um
I'm just gonna cut them
Gristle
both off.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to say about this card really, other than it's banned, it should stay banned, and it kind of falls under Emrakul in the sense that we talked about, hey, there's a new colorless Panharmonicon-y trigger duplicator coming out. Well, with Gristlebrand, Shieldred's out and about now and is everywhere. So this is
Mhm.
one of those cards that gets more disgusting every time another set comes out and Blank gets another like draw a card, lose a life, draw a card, gain a life kind of synergy.
Mhm.
I just can't imagine seeing this and going, I bet those 7 cards they're about to just house me with they won't damage at all.
Nah. Yeah, I
Um
get it as well.
yeah, I think this is a quick one. I say ban. I say keep banned.
Yeah, keep it banned.
Next up is a card that I actually forgot about until we were looking at this episode. This is why I think it went from 8 to 9, from the hateful 8 to the naughty 9, or the what do we decide on?
Nefarious 9?
Nefarious. I almost said noxious. The
I mean, that
noxious
works too.
9.
Yeah.
But now we have Iona, Shield of Emeria. Iona, 9 mana. So if 8 mana was not enough for you with Gristlebrand, now we're going for 6 white, white, white. It's a lot of white.
Uh,
Um,
all due respect, didn't you skip one?
did I skip one?
Hull Breacher?
Hull Breacher's not legendary, sir.
Oh, my apologies. I just saw creature.
Oh my goodness. No, we are only talking about commanders
Oh,
in
I
the
know.
Chaman zone. Hull Breacher though, hot take, unban Hull Breacher. I never got to play with Hull Breacher. I'd love to play with Hull Breacher.
Right. Yeah.
Something tells me that if I had the Arayo counter everybody's nonsense and a Hull Breacher out, the game would
Wow.
end pretty well.
Chef
Maybe I get a
kiss.
concentrated Sphinx as well, and we'll
Yeah.
just while I'm dream setting up my board. So I want a Rhystic Study, a Mystic
Okay.
Remora,
Sure.
the Arayo flip so it counters everybody's stuff,
Yep.
a Hull Breacher, while I'm just theory crafting my mono blue board.
That's for the
Uh,
special band league we're doing.
yeah. It'll be called the Disgusting League. But Iona is a 6 and 3 white for a total of 9 mana for a 7/7 flying angel. Uh, as Iona Shield of Emeria enters the battlefield, you choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. Sure, beautiful.
That's fine, right? No problem with that.
Yeah,
It's only one color. Most people play multicolored decks. What's the problem?
and I actually did. I was curious about this because I feel like nowadays 2 and 3 color decks are probably the most popular. It's very rare you even see like a monocolor precon. They're almost
Yeah.
always 2 or 3 colors.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like I get that it's completely oppressive, and if you're playing against anyone in a monocolor, or you hit the unholy jackpot of somehow you're playing 3 opponents all monocolor in the same color.
Well, yeah. That
Yeah.
that one, I mean, that one's just on them for not saying no, you can't play that deck. Because how do you
Well,
sit down to that and be like, oh, you can play Iona? I mean, it's more along the lines of you hit the pod where you're lucky enough that the 2, 3, and 4 color deck all share a color that you could just hit. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna hit red because you all have access to red. You know, uh,
no. Listen, I think it's all about the sales pitch. You go, "Hey guys, you know what everyone teases as being the worst color? Mono white. We should all play all 4 mono white decks." Ha 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 ha. And then you drop this out and go, "I choose white."
that's just
See, it's all about the pre-gaming, the pre-game action.
and the only gaming because you'll never play again after that move. At
Exactly.
least not with that group.
You'll think about it on your post-game walk home because everyone slashed your tires.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, I
and then
get
I
why
told my
this one was banned, but still, it's
Yeah,
like,
I do too. Listen, so this is our sixth one we've looked at, right?
mhm,
And of the 6, half of them have fallen under the trappings of preventing other people from playing the game to some degree, whether that's braids landlocking people out, whether that's Arayo just straight
countering
up
everything.
countering everything. This one is pretty much the same thing because
Yeah,
even if you are in a 2-color deck, usually even 2-color decks or even 3-color decks, they don't necessarily skew 50-50 on the colors. It might be 60-40, 70-30. There's a lot of when you get to 4 colors, it gets even more so where 3 of the colors are dominant and maybe it's splashing the 4th color.
yeah,
And that's before you even get into the fact that I've never seen a 5-color deck that's like 20% of each color.
right. Yeah, very true.
So if you figure out what their key pieces are, or even if you figure out like, hey, your commander is this color, I'm just gonna name a color that, like you said, all two or maybe all 3 of those commanders share, and you're like, well, no one casted their commander. Have fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. There's a part of me that wants to fight against this one and be like, but it's 9 mana in mono white. That's not easy. You're not dropping that like an Eldrazi. It's not, but it is. The second it comes out, you lock out an entire color scheme. Either it's one player is taken out or everyone is drastically limited. You're probably going to go with something like cheap, like, oh, I'm going to call blue. So now you can't like do any counter spells or like a lot of removal and stuff like that. So it's like, I get it.
Well, here's the other way to think about it, right? I know we're talking about a lot of these as commanders, but again, these are banned in all facets, right? So they're also
Right.
banned in the 99. So I
Mhm.
think where we're talking about, hey, it's a 9 mana commander. This is also something where looking at the time of release and stuff like that, this probably showed up in like Kalia decks, where Kalia the Vast, where when it attacks, you can bring out a dragon, demon, or angel like tapped and attacking from your
Mhm.
hand. So you can cheat. You could have that and just go Kalia goes sideways. All right, I cheated 9 mana. This comes in, and I'm instantly poo pooing on someone's color.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Even like Giada, which is I think heads and shoulders above all the other angel commanders these days.
Mhm.
Giada regularly cheats out angels, like through other means, but I mean it's a
Yeah.
mana dork. It's a you know
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. I get it. Like I get it from that like evil I want to be Staxy piece
Mhm.
of my brain,
Yeah.
but from the hey, let's have fun and let everybody participate in the game, maybe not.
Right. No, I agree.
Um
I say
yeah. Yeah, me too. Leave a band. Next up, we have Leovold, Emissary of Trest. So Leovold is black, green, blue for a 3/3 Elf Advisor.
Jeff
Each
Goldblum,
opponent,
as we call him.
what's that?
Jeff Goldblum, as we call him. Because if you look at the picture, he looks like Jeff Goldblum.
You know what? You have me squinting now, and yes, he looks like Jeff Goldblum with elf ears. And
Yeah.
if you
But
look at Jeff Goldblum, he has elf ears.
yeah. When that card was came out, like my friends were instantly, it's like, oh, you mean Jeff Goldblum? I'm like, oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
Every time I think of Jeff Goldblum now, though, I think of that Secret Lair or whatever, where he's like
ahead.
sexy
Yeah.
posing or whatever it
Right.
is,
From Jurassic
like
Park.
thirst trapping.
Yep.
But Leovold, black, green, blue for a 3/3 elf advisor. Each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. So no one else can draw more than one card, and you can essentially have like Ward draw a card.
This one's iffy. I mean, I get it. Obviously, they're all obvious as to why they're banned, but
Sure.
I mean, this one's not as oppressive as the other ones. It skews it in your favor. It skews the game in your favor, but it's not stopping anyone from playing the game. It's just stopping the everyone else from doing excessive card draw, which is kind of what
Mhm.
the game has evolved into. Like if you want to win, you got to draw more than one card a turn, and it lets you do that. So it's like it does make the game in your favor, but I mean, isn't that the whole point of Magic in the first place? I mean,
So I looked at it in like two ways, right? When I was looking at this card, one is yes, it restricts the card draw aspect, right? Because it's clear why it's banned. It's kind of clear what the gameplay is here, which is I have this and I make everybody wheel and I go, ha ha ha, I drew a bunch of cards and you don't draw anything, or you draw a card, and you just become that guy at the table. Um, or you like the fairies puzzle box, or you like I get it. I get those kind of things. So you limit their card draw. Teferi's Puzzle Box, for those of you who've never seen it, is essentially on your turn, you would draw the card, shuffle your hand, and then draw a fresh hand. So the idea is that you can't really pre-plan your turn because your hand gets shuffled away and you're like, oh, I got a new hand, so I can't like sandbag my next combo piece or anything like that because it's all luck of the draw. But
yeah.
since it comes after your card draw, you go, oh, I shuffle my hand away. Oh, I don't draw anything, so I'm left with just my board.
Mhm.
So it locks people out that way, which
Sure.
is maybe more brutal than some of the other ones we've seen.
I mean,
I
you're
don't know what's
right.
worse.
Yeah.
Is it worse to go, you've got no lands to play cards, or you just have no cards to play?
Honestly, they're the same, really, because it's. I mean, you could if you could draw your entire deck if you got no way to play because you got no lands. What's the point? And then if you got all the lands in the world and you can't draw a card to play, who cares? Like, what's the point? So I count them as being equal. But you're right. But it's like my question then is like, okay, Teferi's Puzzle Box, fantastic example. Clearly going to be in like every Leovold deck ever, if
Mhm.
anyone knows Magic. But are there more cards like that? How many? It's one card in the 99. You're going to design the deck to go get it, sure. But again, his other aspect doesn't even trigger unless someone else targets you. So you're not just drawing extra cards all the time. You're only drawing extra cards when they try to get rid of Leovold or something on your board
So
state. So
this brings me up to the second thought I had, right? Perfect segue from you.
awesome.
Perfect assist without planning. So the second aspect, I think there's more busted versions of this, and I'm gonna throw a name at you and see what you think. Chulane, Teller of Tales. So Chulane
I'm gonna pretend I know exactly
is
what that is while I look it up.
yeah. So Chulane basically is like whenever you play a creature or a creature enters the battlefield, you can draw a card and then put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. And then for mana, I think it's three, maybe it's
Mm,
two.
great.
You can then bounce a creature back to your hand. So the concept there is you play a creature, you usually fill your deck with like a bunch of one drops or low kind of curve creatures, draw cards. Oh, look, I got land. I ramped the land out, and then I used the land to play another creature from my hand, draw another card, and you basically power your entire deck out onto the field. And if you ever get to the point where you go, oh, I don't have any creatures, you go, well, I'm gonna pay, mana. I'm gonna bounce this little one mana back to my hand, and that way I can play it again, and then draw a card, and you make this like obnoxious loop.
Mhm,
And I think that's way more abusable than this because it's not relying on your opponents. Like you said, Leovold means you or an opponent has to target my Leovold or anything on my field to make it trigger.
mhm.
Whereas Tulane is like its own self-fulfilling engine.
Yeah.
This but Leovold I think is clearly banned for the first line of text.
Yeah.
The other one's nice, but I think it's more incidental.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. That's gonna be the bulk of why then I'm getting banned because of things like the Nefarious Puzzle Box where it's because like I said initially, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like, oh, you only get your card draw on your draw step. Boo hoo. That's what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to, it's like, everyone's spoiled now with drawing like a million cards a turn because of what they're doing. It just puts you back to normal. But you're right, you could even shut that off so that then they can't
Mhm.
draw anything, and then we're right back to the whole oppressive, no one gets to play Magic. And I think that is probably the core of all these bans is that not even like necessarily the fun thing, really. That's a big part of it, but I don't get to play. Like I bought these
Mhm.
cards to play the game. I want to shuffle my deck. I want to see my cards. I want to play them and interact with you in some fashion. These all these banned cards don't let you play. You just get to sit there and watch me play.
Like, I think if you were to make this one worse, you would put a red pip on there somewhere, because then you'd have access to like Wheel of Fortune and Wheel of
Oh yeah.
Misfortune and all those dirty tricks.
Yeah.
But no, I think we're absolutely right. So we've looked at seven of them, seven of the nine banned commanders,
Mhm.
and a vast majority are resource denial. You know, even I would say even Emrakul, like Emrakul, sure, there's other nasty things that it has to deal with, like the fact that you can shuffle your entire graveyard back into your library, or the fact that you take two turns and you could perceivably blink it to just keep taking a bunch of turns, like bounce to your hand, cheat it back out, and like weird loops and stuff like that. But even that's resource denial because I'm denying you the ability to have a turn if
Mhm.
I break that symmetry, or I'm annihilating you and denying you the ability to
Yeah.
just have stuff.
Right.
The only one on here that I think is maybe that we've looked at so far that is like not on here for resource denial purposes is Golos.
Yep. I was gonna say that exactly.
And then but then, Golos is about what are you feeding into? So maybe I use Golos to feed into Emrakul and then deny your resources.
Right. True.
Annihilator trigger that way.
Yeah.
Even Gristlebrand. Gristlebrand's all about breaking symmetry because it's I just want to draw more cards than you.
Hmm.
Now, what if I told you that there was a commander that was banned not for the fact of what it does in the command zone, not for the fact of what it does in the 99, and not for the fact that it denies you, Brian, a resource, but for the fact that it gives me a freebie bonus resource just for being around?
Okay. I would
May
say
I
you're
present
crazy.
nonsense, good sir, nonsense. But may I present to you Lutri the Spell Chaser? This is the one. Before I read it off, this is the one that I think with Golos. If Golos is not like most controversial, I think Lutri is right up there. It's like 1A, 1B kind of situation.
This adorable little innocent otter. You're telling me that needs to be banned. That is absurd. He's just playing with some lightning because he's cute and doing things with his little otter paws. This is a travesty.
He
He
is
should not
cute,
be
by the
banned.
way. This is 10 out of 10 art. I don't, regardless of what you think about the card. uh, Lutri is one and then two hybrid Izits, like so blue red. So for a total of 3 mana, you get a 3/2 legendary elemental otter that is Flash. When Lutri the Spell Chaser enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. It seems super fair. Oh, but wait, there's more. It actually has one line of text right above it, and that is companion. And the companion restriction here is each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. Super difficult hurdle to jump through in a singleton format where all
Yeah,
non-land cards in your deck have a different name.
right. That's impossible.
The issue here is the fact that if you're in any kind of blue and red deck, and it could be more than that, it could be Grixis where you add black in, it could be anything as long as you have access to blue and red, you're getting a free 101st card and a
Hmm.
free like eighth card into your opening hand. So, and if you're not in those strategies, you don't get that card. So most of the commander or companion restrictions have things that are a little more restrictive.
Hmm.
Usually what jumps in my head is there's Obosh, the prey spell piercer, prey chaser, whatever it is, Obosh.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, your entire deck has to have odd converted mana costs, so you have
Yep.
to build like 1, 3, 5, 7, etc.
Mhm.
Um, Umori, the ooze one that forces you to have your entire deck be a single permanent type.
Mhm.
Typically, you go creatures because you have to have a creature as your commander. But so typically that is a little bit more of a hurdle, right? Because you
Right.
go, man, if my entire deck is creatures, well, I have to be a little more discerning on what creatures I add in so that I can still have access to removal and card draw and all those things that spell slots would normally fill. When you look at Obosh and you go, oh, it has to be odd numbered stuff, then you got to look at those and go, well, that means no arcane signets anymore
Mhm.
because that's 2 mana, and you see all these different things that kind of get dropped off. So you start finding less functional cards where you go, man, this would be a great card at 2 mana, but I can only find it at 5 mana.
Right.
This no such restriction. The restriction is basically play commander.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally just make a commander deck.
I still find it very controversial in this sense, right? So I think one of the big arguments here is having a sort of banned in commander versus banned as a commander list. And this is usually the poster child of that being thrown around,
Mhm.
which is Lutri in the 99 is not really a threat. Lutri in the command zone is not a threat. It's just, hey, I've got this ability to flash out and make a copy.
Yeah.
But Lutri as a companion is what the issue is.
But okay, but say like and again, this is showing my unskilled nature. Why? It's not even like it can go back to the command zone like a commander. It's a one shot because it's a companion, so you can play it one time from the command zone. If it dies, it goes to the graveyard. Then you have to have graveyard recursion to do it again. So you're only flashing it in and copying your spell once. And I
Mhm.
understand that the whole point is that what you're trying to make is that as a companion, the hurdle to make it your deck around it is nothing. So it's a free companion that doesn't even hurt you in any way. But it's still only a copy spell one time.
Yeah, so here's my thoughts on it. Now, this falls in the Golos with me, right? Like we look at these other ones and I go, I see why it's banned. I support why it's banned.
Mhm.
I get it. The the Golos one, I would probably not ban. Lutri also falls under that for me. Like
Yeah, I
I
agree.
get the hurdles of saying I don't want to have a list. Like if you're on the rules committee, right? I
Mhm.
understand the reasoning or the hurdles behind going like, well, I don't want to have three different banned lists where it's like this is banned as commander, this is banned in totality, and this one is banned in a companion only zone. Like I understand that because then you're adding more layers of complexity and more rules that people need to understand and things like that.
Mhm.
But for the effect, I think the effect itself is, probably not so powerful that it deserves banning on that aspect. I think it comes back to the symmetry of magic at the beginning standpoint, which is, hey, we all draw 7 cards unless you're under some like anarchist mulligan rules. But we're all drawing 7 cards. We're all starting at 0 lands in play. It's all going to be equal. And this breaks that turn one symmetry. Not that you can really play it turn one, but it breaks the fact that I start off with an extra resource that no one else has.
Yeah, but and I see what you're saying, but to
Mhm.
as you were doing, like devil's advocate, then it should be any companion should be the same thing because it's yes, the companions make building the deck a little bit more difficult. because of some
Sure.
restriction, but you're still giving an unfair advantage in that sense of having an extra card outside the game, 101 versus everyone else having 100. How is that any different? And the other companions, from like I've played against a deck where it's something in Obosh. It's horrible because they both work really well together. Whereas
Mhm.
this thing, again, like I said, unless I'm missing something very obvious or some sort of synergy with another card, it's like, okay, cool. One time I can copy a spell. Whoop-de-doo. Like there's
No,
so many other cards that do that anyway that are probably cheaper than his mana cost. So I just don't see it myself.
no, I understand what you're saying. So when you look at the companions in general, right? Of which I'm not going to imagine to know what they all are, but a couple of them come to mind, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I can almost break them into like a pseudo tier list mentally, and I don't have them pulled up or anything. I'm just mentally thinking about it, right? So Obosh, I think, works really well in burn strategies because what
Yeah.
Obosh is it doubles damage from odd
Mm.
CMC spells
Yeah.
or odd CNC sources. So I actually run an Obosh in my Karavik the Merciless deck, not as a companion, but in the 99 because Karavik is a 7 CMC card, and there's like a lot of 3 CMC burn spells and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I would almost say Obosh and Umori, the slime one we were talking about, where you have to commit yourself to a card type.
Mhm.
Those are probably a lower tier level as far as like what they do. So Umori, you commit yourself to a card type, and then it's a discount effect. So it like reduces them, I believe, by two. Or so if you go creatures, all your creatures are reduced by two colorless, two
Okay.
generic mana. Then if you go up from there, usually the ones you see the most are Zerta, which is the white red fox. Which I'm not gonna pretend I know what it does. I just
I mean, I
remember I
know
know I
there's
see
one
it a
that does
bunch.
the opposite of Obosh, right? Isn't there one it's all even converted mana cost? There has to be.
I believe so. So there's Obosh, or I'm sorry, there's Zerta, the Dawn
Mhm.
Wake. There is also a Gigantha, which Gigantha has to do with the amount of colored pips in your like its restriction is you can't have a card in your deck that has like duplicating colored pips.
Mm,
So
mhm.
if you have one like mono green card, it's the only mono green card in your deck. If it's like basically like there's no like green greens in your deck. There's no like black blacks in your deck.
Right.
And that one you can reduce everything by Wooburg.
Nice. Okay.
And then the other one that comes to mind is Luris, which is the black white one, and that one has to do with everything in your deck has CMC 3 or lower, but it lets you recur creatures.
Okay.
So if I were, and again, this is I might be misexplaining some of them because they're just like off the top of my
Mm,
head, but I would say that Gigantha, Luris, and Zerta are usually the upper echelon of the ones you see, power wise, and then the other
mhm.
ones are more gimmicky. And I would say Lutri falls in the more gimmicky side of things. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's very contingent on what spell you're casting. Like if
Mm,
I'm casting, I don't know, Torment to Hailfire or something like some big obnoxious spell,
right.
I'm gonna love Lutri. If it's
Mhm.
like I'm casting Ponder, great. I ponder twice.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So I'm actually I know I was saying like, it breaks symmetry as far as resources. I'm okay having Lutri in. I just understand the reasoning behind not having him or having it banned. I wish that you could ban him as a companion just so that one loophole gets closed.
Hmm.
And I also, like, again, understand the reasoning behind not wanting to go multiple ban lists and
Oh
making it
yeah.
more confusing. Because what I think happens is the message gets lost in today's day and age of the Twitter sphere and all the stuff. That if
Yeah.
you see a post that says Lutri was unbanned, like, oh, I'm going to slot him right into my companion zone and da 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 da, without
Yep.
necessarily seeing the fine prints of it.
Yeah. Totally. Oh, I agree.
But for me, I would say unban it. Now, I do run a lot of spell casting decks, so this might be a little biased, but I would unban it personally.
I'd say unbanned as well.
Also,
It's just,
adorable. Adorable.
it's absolutely.
All right. Last but not least is a card that I forgot existed.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever knew it existed to
I
even
did
forget
not.
that it existed. Talking about 2 mana commanders, we have Rofalos, Llanowar Emissary. Green green for a 2/1 elf druid. Tap, add green mana to your mana pool for each forest you control.
I like
That's
it.
it. Yeah, seems great.
Yeah. I
um
I guess I get it. I mean, it's green. It's in green
Mhm.
first and foremost. So you're going to be ramping out a crap ton of forests, and obviously you're going to build the deck around it. Like I mean, it's obviously big green Stompy and maybe even like big green X spells or something like that, where it's just and of course Eldrazi come back into play again. So it's like cool. I have 10 forests out. I'm going to tap this to make 20 men. I'm going to drop like two or three Eldrazi's on one turn. Yeah, I get it.
Well, interesting. I get it too. Now, where I think this also runs into some issues that you wouldn't see if this was like tap to add white for every planes in play or something is one, you have elf synergies, right? So there's already enough of those like tap and add a green for every elf you control.
Mhm.
So you're already making massive elf ball like mana, like the mana is just flowing
Yeah.
anytime you look at the board, you know.
Mhm.
But the other issue I see is green especially stands out in its ability to turn things into forests or to create more forests than you would maybe have in the deck.
Mhm.
So when you look at things like Yavi Maya, Cradle of Growth, that that one right there just says, "Hey, all lands are forests."
Right.
So suddenly it does. You could be in a 5 color deck and you go, "Well, all my stuff's forests now, so I'm tapping this for as many lands as I have."
Yeah. I think what probably breaks it the most is the fact that it's a 2 cost commander. If it
Sure.
costs like 5 or 6 mana to play him, even as a 2/1 or make him a 3/3 or 4/4, it would be a little better and it might not have been banned as quick because well, I don't know how fast it was banned, but my point
Um.
being you play it on turn 2, you can automatic or you can't tap him, but like turn 3, you're getting 6 mana basically. Because even if you've only played one land a turn, you tap him and you tap your 3 lands, you get 6 mana. That lets you play 2 ramp spells. And then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, turn 4, like because he comes out so early, it just exponentially increases your mana beyond anything that the rest of the table can keep up with on curve. So it just gives you a dras. It doesn't stop, unlike the other things we've talked about tonight. It doesn't stop anyone else from playing in any sense, but it catapults you ahead to a point where they can't really catch up.
No, and that's I think absolutely right. So like you said, by turn 3 you've got 6 mana, right? So you go, hey, turn 2 is I'm forest, play this. That's my turn 2. Turn 3, forest, tap that. You got 3 lands from your forest. This taps for 3. You got 6. You go, okay, cultivate rampant growth. You go search for more forests. Turn 4, you've got those 5 now in play, plus maybe you play another one from hand as your land for turn. You're at 6 forests. This taps again for another 6. You're at 12. You know, maybe you have Eudora Grave Gardener out that says whenever your creatures die, they come back as forests.
Right? Yeah.
And then yeah, and you just go, all right, well, what is the biggest, like Green Sun Twilight or was it Green Sun Zenith? Where you just
Yeah.
go, all right, I'm gonna tap X equals 20, or you just go crazy, whereas everybody else is sitting there going, hmm, I can now play my 5 mana commander. You're already like, well, I'm in the end game.
Yeah. Literally, like on turn 5, you're dropping one of the biggest Eldrazi's, while someone
Hmm.
else is maybe playing their 4 or 5 cost commander. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's absolutely. It seems innocuous when you look at it. It's like, oh yeah, it's 2/1, it's 2/2. Who cares? It makes mana. It's like no, it's because of that low cost. It's just it breaks the game in your favor, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is like, I think the comparable version that people would say would be like Gaia's Cradle, which is
Mhm.
a land that taps to add green equal to the amount of creatures you have. But Gaia's Cradle does take a couple turns to set up because you have to play Gaia's Cradle. Like even if that was your first land, you got to play Gaia's Cradle. Oh wait, you can't tap it for any mana just yet because there's no creature out, and you have to
Mhm.
kind of like build your board a little bit. This one is like, oh, I can play him, and as long as he can tap, whether he's got haste or whether I just make it around a turn, suddenly I can just start dumping my hand and going wild.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do I do find it interesting that this is, like you said, kind of opposite, whereas the other ones were about oppressing the board state, and this one is just about, slingshotting yourself so far into the lead
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you've oppressed everyone by like proxy.
Yeah. It's surprising. It's a good it's a understandable addition. But
Mhm,
it's interesting that it's just so different. The reasoning why it's there is so different. It's a
mhm.
drastic difference than all the other ones, even Golos.
So we've now covered all 9 commanders that are currently banned. So I guess I'm gonna throw it to you, Brian, to ramp in the conversation here. If you would unban any of them, like which ones would you unban? Which ones do you think should never see the light of day?
I definitely, I mean, I don't think we're gonna have too much crazy differences here, but yeah, I would unban Golos and Lutri. And a part of me even says Rofellos, just because let's have some fun, cause some chaos. Because again, it's not stopping anyone else from playing; it's just getting real far advanced. So it's like, okay, well, if you can maybe drop some like creature destruction on turn 3, you can get
Mhm.
rid of them and stop that and slow it down a little bit. Board wipe or whatever on turn 4 or 5, you might be able to take out whatever crazy big creatures they brought in. It's not it's bad, but it's not. It doesn't seem to me to be unmanageable. But you're right, elf ball decks do compound that, so maybe. But that's my on the fence one. The Golos and Lutri, I think should just be unbanned.
Yeah, no, I think I would be in the same boat. Golos Lutri to me would be unbanned or most likely to be unbanned. Rofilos, I get it, right? Like it's fun, it's flashy. It gives you more resources, so I think it appears more fun maybe than it plays out. I'm
Sure.
just, guessing that
Mhm.
it sounds more fun than it plays out because you're going, I've got more, right? Like I'm not restricting, I'm giving myself more. I could see the argument of, like I said, like by proxy, you're therefore restricting the other three players just by going, I've got 20 mana and you're on turn 4. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Um,
To your point, I think Ruthless would absolutely be the I want to play it once. Because you're right. It's
mm,
probably seems more fun than it is. It's probably amazing the first time you do it, and then when you just do it consistently, it can't be that enjoyable to just be like, okay, cool, turn 5, I've got 50,000 creatures out and I'm making a million mana and I just win.
sure. But you know what the other thing too is? I think he also lends himself to be most similar to Golos in the sense of if this was your commander, you could build the deck in any real direction. Now, this one's
Mhm.
restricted by color, obviously, but
Right.
there's nothing on there that goes, well, it has to be elves
Yeah.
or it has to be this. You just go, I'm just going to make sure that whatever I build, I have enough mana to cast whatever it is. So you could go mono green Eldrazi if you wanted to. You could go, which I think would be interesting. What is it? Helix Pinnacle? There's one of them where you like dump
Yes.
mana into it, and when you hit, I think it's 100, you
It's
win.
100. Yep. It's in one of my
Yeah.
decks. I took it out, but because it was supposed to be, it was in my landfall deck because that's the one that had the most mana in. But
Mhm.
it's just like that 100 is just so ridiculous to try and do.
Yeah, but
Like,
see, in this deck, you could actually maybe pull it off because you're like, wow, I've got 10 mana to spare. Like I cast everything I wanted to do this turn. I still have,
yeah,
exponential mana to dump.
that would be a really fun way of building it, absolutely.
Yeah,
That'd
so
be great, just build it around Healy's Pinnacle. Just protect Ruffless and just every single mana ramp spell available, and, maybe a couple, like, super low-cost creatures that tap for mana just to be blockers, and then just build it around getting 100 counters on that thing as quickly as possible.
yeah, well, because you could also, I guess, like pseudo infinite combo this where I believe it's Umbral Mantle, the one that's like 2 mana and you can actually untap to get an effect as like an
Ah.
equipment.
Mhm.
So as long as you have more than 2 forests, you can go, "Okay, I tap, gain 3," or whatever it is. Imma untap and just and then yeah, Helix
Okay,
Pinnacle it up.
that's yeah, yeah. I forgot about that, but you're absolutely right. That would be an easy way to break that down.
But I mean, if we're being honest, I think if you really apply yourself, since we're like 17,000 cards in or something, you could break pretty much anyone.
Yeah, that's true too.
Okay. So I think that brings us to the end of our discussion. So we're gonna hop into question of the week, card of the week, and then we're gonna wrap it on up.
Mhm.
All right, are you ready? This question of the week, Brian, comes to us from none other than Cole. He stepped out of the episode, so we gave him the opportunity to give us a question of the week, and instead he gave us like optional 2 question, choose your own adventure,
Yeah,
scratch and sniff, find the question, and then he doubled down and told us which of the 2 questions he thought was the superior question.
I mean, he was right. The first one, I was like, "Oh, I don't want any of those choices."
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So Cole's question of the week, and it starts with congratulations. I don't know if I've ever had a question that says congratulations, congratulations, you've won. Now please tell me what your social security number is. But hey, congratulations, you've landed your dream job as a Wizards of the Coast employee. Your first assignment, in order to prove your capability on the rules committee, which is not a part of Wizards of the Coast, but
Shush, shush. Just
failure on your part,
let him have this.
uh,
He's sick.
you must unban one card and ban one currently unbanned card. So what are your choices and why?
Okay, well, if we're doing this for this is for fun. This is separate from our 15-hour discourse that we just had.
I'm
So to that end,
unbanning Emrakul.
yeah, yeah. Let's cause chaos. I will unban Emrakul. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Just because we're gonna cause chaos, let him eat cake, let him go nuts, and
Mhm.
then I would ban Arcane Signet because we'll shut off all those turn one land Soul Ring Arcane Signets that everyone hates. Yeah, you can play your
Mhm.
Soul Ring. You ain't got nothing to play with it. Have fun. You're not doing anything past that.
Just turn one soul ring nothing.
Yeah.
I think if you ban how you see like those was it like possibility streams where you go, okay, well if this happens, then it's gonna open up these channels in time.
Yeah.
I think if you split reality by banning Arcane Signet, suddenly you're gonna wake up in a world where Reddit is talking about like, Grand Dynamo is a staple because you Soul Ring turn one and then turn two, you've got a land and a Soul Ring to
Yep.
dump into a Thran Dynamo, and then you can use that new land you put down to bring out your Wayfarer's Bauble, and then your Thran Dynamo can crack the Wayfarer's Bauble. That's CEDH, baby.
No, even better. It's like think about it. It's like turn one, land into Soul Ring. Turn two, tap both those to do your Thran Dynamo, and tap Thran Dynamo into a Bonder's Ornament, baby. My signature card. Come on. Now you got card draw on the table.
You would literally hear people go like, "Man, these talismans and these guild signets are busted. Whoever came up with Orzhov signet, busted."
Yeah, ban that stuff.
Mhm. Ugh. So what would you ban? Oh well, I guess that is what you would ban.
Yeah.
And we're unbanning Emrakul.
Yeah. Let's do
So
it.
you're gonna ban ramp, and you're gonna unban the thing that's most desperate for ramp.
Yes.
All right,
I said
that
let's
would.
cause chaos.
I love it. I love it so much. You know what though? That really takes the wind out of the Soul Ring should be banned sales in like a weird way. I don't even know now. Now you've shattered my world.
So I'm sorry. It's just that's the thing, man. I take out two cards with one band. It's perfect. I just
Um,
neutered Soul Ring. It doesn't matter anymore.
you did neuter Soul Ring. Okay, I'll say this. Unban the Moxen. Nobody has them anyways. Who cares? Actually, you know which one I would say unban? And this is gonna be it would be super busted. Uh unban was it Caracas? It's a land, so it's a land taps for a white, or you can tap it to mess with a legendary creature.
Return target legendary creature to its owner's hand.
So you could do it to like bounce people's commanders. Or if you were playing, was it Yoshimaru, the one that cares about legendary creatures entering the battle or legendaries entering the battlefield?
Mhm.
You're like, all right, I bounce this, and I bring this back out, and I put a counter on Yoshimaru, and I bounce it over and over and over again. I almost said Tolarian Academy, which is the tap to give blue for each artifact you have.
Mhm.
Because I think in today's day and age of treasure, it would be like, tap, I guess I have 40 blue mana. Ha ha
Yeah.
ha ha ha.
Oh boy.
Because, Urza needed a way to get stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
So that's I would unban Caracas, and then as
Mhm.
far as ban, I mean, I do hate me some Toxrill, but not enough to ban it because I think it still falls under the I haven't tried it and I want to try it once just to be a bad boy. No, let's ban something arbitrary. You went for Soul Ring, or I'm sorry, you went for Arcane. I'm hung up on banning Soul Ring for some reason.
You are.
I've been on Twitter too long. I think, I don't know. Like you've really stumped me here.
It wasn't my question. It was
It
Cory.
wasn't your question. I know, and that's what's more frustrating about your answer. Could I ban actions?
Ban
I
Burst
want to ban. I
Paradise.
want to ban collusion. Can I ban people colluding together?
Yes, that'd be good.
Actually, okay. Actually, I know what it is. We're gonna talk another hot one. Forget about banning Soul Ring. Let's talk about Rhystic Study, the other one that But specifically, I don't want to ban Ristic Study. I want to ban people from asking me about paying the one. So that covers your Ristic Studies. That covers your Esper Sentinels. That covers your Smothering Ties. If you ask me if I want to pay anything, banned. Ban it. Don't ask me. Just assume I will not pay it.
Yes.
Just start making the token or drawing the card or whatever it is. And if I decide I want to pay it, then I'll slap you on the hand as you try and make it.
I think that's fair.
I do too. But hey, thank you, Cole, for your question of the week. If you would like to submit a question of the week, you can reach out to the podcast directly at UrCast Pod. It's on all the social medias, or you can be like Cole, where you just hop into the recording and tell us what the question of the week is going to be. Good luck finding us for that, but that possibility does apparently exist. But Brian, as the guest host of today's episode, you have been tasked to present us with a card of the week. So what do we got this
Yes.
week?
One of my favorite cards, Vicious Rumors. It is a sorcery, 1 black mana for everything in the kitchen sink. I love it. That's why I love it. For 1 black mana, you Vicious Rumor deals 1 damage to each opponent. Each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent puts the top card of their library into their graveyard, and you gain a life. You're doing 3 damage, discarding 3 cards, or your opponents are, and you're getting them to mill 3 cards, and you gain a life. I mean, for 1 mana, how much more value can you get?
In the world of crimes, by the way, because we're still in Thunder Junction
That's right.
land for a couple more weeks. So this is like if spree hadn't become a card type, this would be a crime spree.
It would be.
So, but the spree has been taken, so I think this is like a whole. I don't know what like spurt.
Rampage. This is a Korean
Yeah,
crime rampage.
rampage. There we go. The only thing that like pseudo checks this card is the fact that it says sorcery. If this said instant, just shut it down.
Yeah, I agree.
And it-
But I mean, I almost don't even care because it's like I'll play it on my turn. I don't care. It's just such a fun card. It's in most of my black decks just because why wouldn't it be? I mean, it's pure value. I see.
Well, and it's such a commander card too because it has each.
Hmm.
So for 1 mana, you're let's say you play this as your turn one play, right? You go swamp, vicious rumors. You're taking 3 life from people, like collectively. So you're dealing 3 damage. You're forcing 3 cards to get discarded and 3 cards to get milled, and you gain a life. So not only do you get the reward of like kicking over the ant hill on someone else,
Yep.
but then you get a life. So you also start at 41 and everyone else is at 40.
39 because they took damage.
It's like you. Oh yeah, they are.
You're
You're up
totally
200.
winning. Turn one, you're winning. It's the
And then
best.
and that's when you just take out a can of spray paint, you just put that target right there on your board, like right on your mat.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I actually really like this. I think it's a great card in like copy, like Grixis spell copy decks too.
Mm.
Not because of
Mhm.
like, oh, it's so hyper powerful, but I'm a big fan of cards that like remind the table that you're present.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the ultimate like, it just so you know, I'm still playing the game.
Hmm.
But hey, great card of the week.
Thank you.
So I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. So Brian, if the people wanted to seek you out, first off, thank you for being on the episode. Of course, it's always a pleasure to
Absolutely.
have you. But if people wanted to seek you out, where would they find you at?
First and foremost, check me out on YouTube, the Unskilled Commander. I do gameplay videos and comedy skits, deck techs, things like that. Check it out, maybe subscribe. And you can also find me on Twitter, Unskilled Commander, but it's Unskilled CMDR because of character restrictions. I couldn't have as much. So, but yeah, I post on there and I try and do charity streams on Twitch as well. The Unskilled Commander's Twitch, if you want to go there, that follow. I have 2 more charity streams tentatively planned for the rest of the year, and then they'll be benefiting Extra Life. So I'm looking forward to doing those, and I'm looking forward to getting some awesome guests like last time. You guys are invited, of course.
Yeah. Hey, so if you guys aren't following Brian, check him out on all the social medias. Like you said, he does a lot of work with charity, with Extra Life, with I believe you did one with the Trevor Project as
Hmm.
well at some
Yep, that
point.
was April. Hmm.
You know, great guy, great content, and his YouTube stuff is quite picante, if I say so myself. Um, but definitely take a second, check him out, and help support the community and help support a good cause. I believe last stream or last month you raised a little over $400. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
let's
Five
hope
hundred
that
dollars actually it ended up being $500 for the Trevor Project in April when we did our 12-hour charity stream. It was a lot of fun.
okay. There we go. So $500. He wore Wolverine claws and wigs and masks and everything. So go support him, and hopefully we can help get some more money on the next upcoming streams. If you want to follow anyone else, you can follow Cole. Not that he's here, but I guess I'll plug him anyways. But Cole, you can find at loveandmana.mtg. You can follow me on all those socials as well. I guess Instagram and all those things, but primarily Twitter, YouTube, and Spotify. You can find me at Sleevecard, or you can reach out to the podcast directly at UrCastPod or contact.urcast@gmail.com. Any of those are valid spots if you want to leave a question of the week, which we are always appreciative to have. But thank you for making it to the end of today's episode. Have yourselves a magical Friday, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.